Hi guys, Rostopher back, and today I'm looking at a game called Chivalry Deadliest Warrior. Now, you might have seen my Chivalry Medieval Warfare video that I put up a while ago. This is an expansion to that game, and it's made in conjunction with a TV program called Deadliest Warrior, which pits different warriors throughout history against each other and analyses what weapons they use, their fighting techniques, and basically, does a reasonably educated guess as to who would actually win. The guys behind Chivalry have made a game based on that series, and it's relatively the same sort of thing, except that it has 6 different classes, and they're all completely different. They're different warriors from throughout history, and they all have their own weapons and their own attributes that make them, better or worse in certain situations. Currently, I'm playing the Samurai. I'm using the katana, but they have a variety of different weapons, spears and a bow, as you can see this guy has. Samurai is probably the most versatile of all the classes, because it has such a big range of weapons. The general mechanics of the game are pretty much the same as Chivalry Deadliest Warrior, Chivalry Medieval Warfare, I should say. So if you've played that, then you should be able to jump into this no problem. You do need to own that game in order to buy this, because it is an expansion. It requires the base game in order to play. And as you'll notice from the top left hand corner, this is still in beta. The actual game itself is released early November, I think it's November the 4th, maybe a bit later. But I thought I'd put this out there just so you guys can get an idea of what it's like. The bow on the Samurai is pretty good. It functions essentially the same as the other bows in Medieval Warfare, but this class really excels in close quarters combat, because they have a lot of really a lot of melee weapons that have good reach on them, and are quite fast as well. The katana's the go-to weapon really, but there's a whole bunch of stuff like, as I said, spears. They even have a club which hits pretty hard. There's certain maps that are better for ranged weapons, and this isn't really the best one, because there's a lot of open spaces, but there's also a lot of little hilly bits that people can hide behind. So you're much better just sort of creeping through the houses and stuff and killing people through there. I believe this map's called Fortress, and obviously it's a very Japanese influenced map. There's a variety of maps in the game at the moment, and each one is basically based on a particular warrior. I'm going to select the Spartan now, but it won't play until I respawn. So yeah, you can have a variety of different game types as well. There's some where it's just 2 classes against each other, so it's just pirates versus ninjas, or samurai versus ninjas, and stuff like that. But you can also get massive open selection games like this, where you have different coloured teams, but those teams can be made up of any classes. As far as I'm aware, there's no team objective game types in it yet. I don't know whether they're planning on adding those. I mean, with Medieval Warfare it kind of made sense, because many of the game types in that reflect the context of medieval times and location it's set in. You're assaulting a castle and dumping bodies into rivers and slaying peasants and stuff. Whereas with this, because you've got so many different classes, you'd either have to have certain game types with certain classes. So, maybe you could have the pirates and the ninjas, and the pirates have to defend the treasure, and the ninjas are trying to steal it or something like that. Or maybe the Vikings are trying to steal it. That'd probably make more sense, I suppose. Even though historically they weren't actually as barbaric as people say they were. Oh yeah, and Vikings can throw their shield as well, which hurts pretty bad. So if you run up on a Viking, be prepared for that. It can take up like half your health, I believe. So this is a Spartan. Most of their primary weapons are spears. I think all of them are, and they have different functions. You can get a javelin as well, which can be thrown. I'm not great at Spartans, as you've probably seen now. I've never been that great with spears. I never was on medieval Warfare, so the Spartans just don't feel very good to me. I mean, they've got good reach, which is very good against classes like the Ninja, which is pretty close quarters class, though they do have some ranged attacks. The same with the Viking. Every class has at least one ranged attack, but some are better than others. You do have to be careful in this game of team killing. It's pretty much the same as the base game in that respect, in that you can do damage to teammates, and I do get a few team kills. The Spartan secondary weapons are all swords and stuff, so if you are finding that you're not that great with spears, you can just swap to one of those, and they're pretty decent, to be honest. The gore's pretty much the same as the base game as well. It's pretty intense. That ability is a ninja ability. It basically throws like this thing down on the ground that makes this smoke that sort of disorientates you, and it can make it quite hard to see and move. So if you see sort of like smoky areas, just stay out of them, really. Yeah, so I was actually quite skeptical of this game when I first heard about it. I guess the reason being is that when a TV show gets behind something, it normally ends up being really awesome or really bad, and just like sort of a cash cow, like a brand extension, and they don't really think about whether the game's actually good or not. They just want to put their game. They just want a game out there that, you know, has the name of their show or their company or whatever. But I think you know, credit where credit's due. It's a good game, and I should have expected it to be honest, because Medieval Warfare is a great game, and you know, I don't know. I think I was expecting it to be a bit hashed together, and it's not. It's actually really tight, even though it's in beta at the moment. All of the classes have their own identity and whatnot, and it's relatively balanced. There are some classes that are a little underpowered. The ninjas are quite hard because they don't have much in the way of armour, so against heavier classes like the Vikings they can get pretty decimated. But overall it's been pretty tight. I haven't noticed a huge amount of bugs. Sometimes if I shoot someone as a pirate they'll go flying in the air, but apart from that, nothing like game breaking. But yeah, no, as I say, I was surprised because I was kind of expecting it to be a bit thrown together, and in actuality it's really tight and it's really good, and I do recommend picking it up if you've already got Medieval Warfare. In fact, if you haven't got Medieval Warfare, pick both of them up, because they are brilliant. And as you can see, I'm really bad at Spartans. I just suck at them. But now I'm playing the Viking, and the Viking are a little heavier class. They've got like big axes and swords and hammers and whatnot, but they're quite slow, and you particularly notice this when you're blocking, especially with the large axes. I find it a lot more difficult to block with these guys than I did in Medieval Warfare. Medieval Warfare, even if you're like a man with huge swords, you can be fairly good with your blocking. In this, I have no excuse for that. Two swords, they tend to be faster, so I should have been able to block there. But with the huge two-handed weapons in Medieval Warfare, it was still fairly easy to block with them. But on this, with the two-handed axe, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a slight delay, so you kind of have to really time your blocks a lot better, because you've got to basically block early. So yeah, they're kind of tricky to use in that respect, but they're one of the heavier classes up there with the samurai and the knight. I'm not playing the knight in this video because I think if you've seen Medieval Warfare, you've seen what the knight is. It's essentially just the same deal, just with all of the weapons from the classes in Medieval Warfare, so you can have bows and all that sort of stuff. Though it is a knight class, it's just sort of all the classes in Medieval Warfare condensed into one. Now this is the ninja, and I'm using like the Wolverine sort of glovey things. They're pretty good. They're probably my favourite weapon. The only problem is that they don't have great reach, and they don't do as much damage, it seems. So you kind of have to really be agile and duck and dive and stuff. But I've got to say, I think the ninjas, along with the pirates, are my favourite class. Just because with pirates, just being able to shoot someone's head off with pistols, great, and with the ninjas being able to duck and dive and use these really cool weapons, it's really fun. And I think they're two of the best classes in the game. I think that guy got confused as to what team I was on. You've really got to watch your stamina as well. In Chivalry is a little bit harder, but at least you've got the energy bar there and you can see it a lot better. And I don't know, I find it a bit easier in some respects and a bit harder in others. It definitely feels like an expansion. It's not just something that's just chucked on the end of it. It does feel like a standalone thing. Here I'm just giving you a quick overview of the different weapons that the classes can have. You'll see like the knight basically has all the weapons from medieval warfare, or a few of them. Big two-handers, crossbow in one hand. Some of the classes do have more weapons than others, as you can see. That's all about balancing, really. You know. I mean, I'm gonna play pirate next, and though the weapons, like the pistols, and I think it's like a blunderbuss sort of thing, though they are pretty good, they also are quite difficult to use. They have long reload times. There's a slight delay from when you pull the trigger and when it fires, so you can't just run around owning people, because in reality pirates should probably win in this fight, because they've got melee weapons and they've got really powerful ranged weapons. So but the ranged weapons have been handled in such a way that they aren't overpowered. They're not as fast as bows are, but they do a lot more damage. Here I'm using the ninja sword, I can't remember what it's called. It begins with an N. But it's pretty good. It's a bit shorter than a katana, so it doesn't have the same range. But it's pretty solid. It's probably a bit easier to use than the fist weapons. Yeah, this is the pirate, and I think this is my favourite class. Just, I love gunning people down from halfway across the map. It might be cheap kills, but it's awesome. And, well, you know, if you get to play as a pirate, that's always going to be awesome. Anyway, the pirates' main weapons, obviously, they're pistols, though there are other things as well. Like swords. What I tend to do is have a pistol or blunderbuss as my main, and sword is my secondary, because one of the other weapons they have is a shiv, and that's just got such low range and does such rubbish damage, it's not worth using. At least with a cutlass, you can swap to melee pretty quickly, like in the case of this, where this guy closed ground on me and I was able to quickly get out my melee weapon and turn things around. So yeah, they're quite versatile in the sense that they're really good ranged class and they're a really good melee class. You just got to be careful that you don't have as much armour as the samurai or the knights. So I really do want to stick at range, particularly if you're on a team-based game type, because then you can basically take out half their health with a shot and allow one of your teammates to finish them off. So as you'll see here, I make a hit but I don't kill, but it does take out a large amount of their health, enough for my teammate to kill them. You can see the reload time on that. The reload time on the pistol is actually much shorter, so they are better in that respect, and they're also a bit more accurate. But I think this weapon has a lot more range on it, and it does more damage. It does more damage the closer you are, so you can like really blow people's limbs off and shit if you're up close. They're not the best class for free-for-all though, because you don't have any backup that's distracting people from getting to you. So, you know, in free-for-all people will just come straight for you, whereas in this they'll get distracted by your teammates, and I don't know, I just find in free-for-all they're not quite as strong. There is one other game type other than basically deathmatch, and that is the dojo, which is basically duel mode. And in it, it's a bit different from the medieval warfare duel mode in the sense that you run around and people are running about and you attack them and they can accept a duel or decline it. and if you accept it, you get put into a little like ring, and you do your duel in there. You can carry on fighting each other, so you can say like, I want a rematch, or I want another rematch, and you can carry on fighting that person, or you can deny it and go back out and then run around, attack another person. They can accept the duel if they want to. You don't take damage outside of the actual duel area itself. So yeah, it's pretty cool little idea. As you can see, Samurai's good, but it's not quite as quick as Pirates, so we have that on our side. But yeah, overall, really liking this game. It's really tight considering it's in beta. I do recommend picking that up. If you pre-order it now, you can actually get access to the beta, but it comes out so soon anyway that, you know, whether it's worth it or not, I don't know. But it's quite cheap as well. I think it's like £10. So I do recommend it. I recommend Medieval Warfare as well if you haven't played that. Both are really good, and this is a well-worthy addition as an expansion to the game. It's just being able to play lots of different classes is really quite interesting and fun. I'm looking forward to seeing if they add any more to it, perhaps more classes or whatever. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Chat to you guys soon. If you want to see any more, let me know. Cheers.